The Finger Lakes Museum proudly presents Dreams into Nectar, New York's Finger Lakes wine story. The first documentary film series ever produced on the history of grape growing and winemaking in the Finger Lakes region of New York State. Listen to the stories of early colonists and see the hardships that pioneer grape growers faced in their efforts to establish the nation's first vineyards.
Grapes come to maturity there, but they leave always a sharp, sour taste, which proceeds from want of cultivation.
Witness their failure to tame the wild native grapes that initially spelled doom for any kind of wine industry in the New World. And then see how a social movement later devastated that industry once it finally became established. The first of this two-part video series, filled with antique photos, panoramic landscapes, and a period-authentic soundtrack featuring original compositions and local musicians, is entitled Collision Course: Wine and Temperance in New York's Finger Lakes. Volume 2 of Dreams into Nectar brings the documentary forward from the time of repeal during the Great Depression to the sharply contrasting present day. New York State's first woman lieutenant governor, Mary Ann Krupczak, recalls her role in the enactment of the state's pivotal Farm Winery Act of 1976.
In 1976, there was a glut of grapes developing in the Finger Lakes. And I had developed a reputation as lieutenant governor that I was accessible. And I began to get telephone calls from farmers in the Finger Lakes and in Chautauqua County who were telling me that they were having cancellations of contracts by Welsh grape companies. And I agreed to come to the Finger Lakes, and they assembled a group of people who were in the grape growing business. And I listened to what they had to say. And it was an eye-opener for me because it branched out to many topics, including the fact that some of them wanted to make wine in their own farms and they couldn't because they were prohibited from doing so. We have very restrictive laws, alcoholic beverage laws in New York State, indeed going back to the Prohibition days. And it was those initial contacts with Dr. Frank and with grape growers that led me to devote a considerable amount of my personal time and staff time to looking at the laws that were holding back developing wineries and farms. And I was shocked to see the extent of obstacles that New York State was placing in this industry.
In this brief excerpt from his interview in our forthcoming second volume of Dreams into Nectar, New York Wine and Grape Foundation President Jim Trezise sums up the mission of this effective public-private partnership.
The New York Wine and Grape Foundation was created by a state law in 1985 that was signed by then Governor Mario Cuomo, and it was at a time of crisis in the New York grape juice and wine industry, where vineyards were being abandoned, wineries were being shuttered, and tourists were flocking away from the region. And so during this crisis, we went to Albany and said, this is a very important industry. You can help to save it. The industry has to change. And so they created a law. And one part of the law was the New York Wine and Grape Foundation, which was created to bring unity to the industry and to centralize and coordinate the programs of promotion and research. So that's what we have done for more than 30 years now, and we continue to have a great partnership with the state of New York. And probably the single most important thing that the foundation has done is to foster unity, cooperation, whatever you want to call it, within the industry.
For more information on the Finger Lakes Museum's Dreams into Nectar documentary film, or to make a tax-deductible contribution, log on to fingerlakesmuseum.org. The Finger Lakes Museum is a not-for-profit organization and is chartered by the New York State Education Department.